Hello odd ones, thank you for clicking into the channel. My name is Z Solom, and here we are entering the Church of Dagon in our search for the missing little girl. Now, the game may tell us that we are off track again, that the little girl is not going to be here, but I have a theory. The theory is that these people sacrifice humans, and that they are trying to lead me astray, that the game itself is trying to lead me astray. And so I think the little girl is actually in this church. Flapjack is in this church, and we are going to find them on the verge of being sacrificed, where we're going to jump in, save the day, and take out anyone who tries to stop us, and then make it back home in time for more games. I don't know. I don't remember what we did at home. Anyways, let's get started. The dark wooden church gates are imposing. The thick rivets of black metal hinges would withstand a whole army. You're unsure whether the church might be closed right now, but you're still reaching for the cold handle and push it down. You lean against the doors, and to your surprise, it opens. As you step inside, you find yourself in a kind of grotto. Only a few candles are lit inside the hall. The slim windows are decorated with the kinds of mosaics that you know from other churches too. Yet, something is wrong here, you think to yourself. Where usually there are red, blue, and yellow specks of light, here there's just a monotonous greenish-gray glow, just as if seaweed had crystallized and formed abstract shapes. Rows of benches stretch out all the way to the pulpit, but many of them have been overturned or vandalized. The church is ruined, a chilly, uninviting place, like most churches. This is a little different than most churches, but I won't argue with your experience, game. Cool, blue daylight enters through a crack in the ceiling, and just below a puddle has formed on the floor. You scrunch up your nose at the smell of decay in this place. You look around, leave the church again. No, let's look around, we're already here. Unless there's someone right behind us that's going to keep us from leaving. Now let's look around. You look around the hall, and toward the front you can see a few rows of benches that are still standing upright. You realize you are not alone. There is something sitting on the last bench just in front of the altar. You can only make out a half-bald head with white bushy hair sticking up to its sides. The man might be waiting for the next mass, or he might be a criminal, repenting all by himself. To the right of the altar is a small door, which presumably leads down into the crypt. There are paintings all around the walls. You look around. Look more closely at the painting, walk up to the altar, sit down on one of the benches, or leave the church. Let's look more closely at the painting. Let's see what we see. Very strange. From your years of admittedly declining church attendance, you're very well acquainted with the kinds of paintings usually displayed, the Passion of Christ and all that. This congregation clearly believes in a very different kind of legend. The first picture shows sailboats leaving a harbor, presumably Innsmouth, and going off to the ocean. There are women, stooped over and wailing, children, and dead people? Yes. Dead bodies appear to be piled up all around the harbor. Picture number 2 depicts the boat being exposed to a gigantic wave during a horrendous storm. The third picture shows an idyllic island, miraculously untouched by harsh weather. The boats have landed here. In the fourth picture, it is night. 2 people are standing in front of a bonfire. A highly problematic depiction of one of the islanders is holding something red in their hands. A man, in tradition mariner clothes, accepts the red thing. You look at the adjacent wall. There are more pictures over there too, but you can already tell that they too have been vandalized. You also look at the other paintings. Decide that you've seen enough paintings for one day. Let's keep looking, maybe there's a clue. The pictures on the adjacent wall do not continue the morbid tale. Instead, here you find the kind of pictures that you had initially expected to see. The Stations of the Cross that is usually displayed in churches. Without exception, they have been vandalized. The canvases have been slit, and even the decorated frames have been destroyed, with the splintered wood still strewn across the floor. You wonder who would do such a thing. Lawyers, your landlady, the gardener. My landlady? Who knows? As you keep studying the picture, you notice that there's method to the madness. Whoever was responsible for the vandalism was going after the biblical figures and has scratched liar, losers, you're to blame, and other allegations next to them. History lesson, we got achievements. Nice. Your mouth has gone more and more dry while you were looking at the pictures. Something is very wrong in this town. You walk backwards, almost automatically, until you bump into another row of benches. You feel like you've seen enough of these vandalized pictures and creepy Innsmouth Bible stories. You look around. Alright, should we walk up to the altar or sit down on one of the benches? Let's... does one of these continue? Let's go up to the altar. A sense of morbid curiosity makes you walk over to the other end of the church to inspect the altar. You let out an involuntary, "Wow," as you walk up to the raised platform. The place looks like a crime scene. Chairs and shelves have been overturned and wine spilt over the steps. Seems like no one bothered to wipe it up. Is it wine? It is wine, isn't it? Of course. Yes, of course it's wine. Or raspberry jelly. Or apple butter? You can barely make out the cross that once must have been hanging over the altar. It too has been destroyed. A fish sculpture has been put up in its place. You're still surveying the spectacular scene in front of you when you hear the sound of someone smacking their lips. The old man is sitting in an antique wheelchair with his arms flopped on the arms rest. You walk up to him. The smell of old leather mingles with the general odor of decay in this place. The man is thrashing his head from side to side. Uh-oh. In the faint light, you can see that his pupils are cloudy, presumably cataracts. He doesn't look at you directly and simply stares somewhere a few yards next to where you are standing. He starts talking with a scratchy voice.
"Gary, my son, is that you?"
I'm sorry, I'm a private investigator. Disguise your voice. Yes, Pop. Walk past him. You know, we haven't exactly shown the greatest moral compass as of right now, and why should we start? Alright.
Yes, Pop.
You answer, your voice disguised in a painfully deep baritone.
Damn it, Gary. What are you doing here, you idiot?
Your jaw drops. Idiot, of all the lonely and unkept old people out there, you seem to have met the one who, without hesitation, insults his children. Wow.
What are you doing here, Gary?
He growls at you more loudly. I wanted to see how you were doing, Pa. Or, I'll kick your ass, Pa. Let's threaten the old man. Maybe this is just a humorous jest between the two.
I'll kick your ass, Pa,
you say in a chipper tone, and earn a throaty laugh which turns into a rather worryingly violent coughing fit. I knew it. I knew that they were playful. Even if your day hasn't been too successful so far, at least you've entertained this old man. If only all your missions were that easy. The dry and spindly hands of the man scratch along the armrest.
Stop talking garbage, dumbass, and let me know whether everything has been prepared.
Of course, or no, but we're getting there. I guess it would be... I mean, we don't know. Maybe this guy who we're pretending to be is kind of dumb and, you know, not very good at doing tasks. So let's just say no, but we're getting there. Maybe that's more believable.
No, but we're getting there,
you reassure the old man. Poof, is all you get as a response.
This is your big moment. Don't ruin it.
Any advice, Pa? What is it we're doing again? Any advice, Pa? Let's continue the bit.
Any advice, Pa? They need to learn to respect you. Don't even think about telling them what you wasted the last few years of your life on.
What have I done wrong? You ask, eager to find out more about this dysfunctional family.
You know exactly what,
the old man screams and digs his claws into his armrest. He comes alive with that very particular spark that parents get when they scream at their children.
Graphic design, what a joke! Don't you dare tell people. I told everyone that you did coastal research at uni.
This conversation resembles more and more what you and your actual family talk about.
Okay, Pa,
you respond automatically. The old man finally seems pacified. Weakened by his tantrum, he is now slumped back into his wheelchair and smiles peacefully. We killed him. He is breathing heavily. We did not kill him. Anything else? Sneak off. Let's ask him. Anything else? The old man knows more than he lets on. You're certain of that. Anything else, you ask?
Once the human sacrifice is in position, nothing can go wrong. Just let their blood flow into the water stream and everything should basically work itself. Damn it!
His eyes are now boring into your forehead. Uh-oh.
You've watched me do this your whole life. You'll manage, Gary.
Good thing this man is half blind, so he's unable to see how the color is completely draining from your face. Did he just talk about human sacrifice? Yeah, this isn't a surprise to us. I wonder if Gary was the one that was going to kill us in the hotel. The old man purses his lips. He's probably just trying to provoke you. I've gotta go, Pa. You try to sound relaxed, but now as if you're about to have a nervous breakdown. What is this old guy on about? You made the snap decision that you don't want anything to do with him, and so you rush over to the door.
Yes, get your lazy ass into gear, you liberal farts have turned you into a right sissy!
Liberal farts? What does that mean? You slip back out through a small crack in the gates. An icy wind whips your face, but you still find it warmer than inside the church. You lean back onto the wall of the old church and heave a sigh. You're not sure exactly why you left, but you are glad that you did. You go to the beach or go to the lighthouse? I was hoping that, explore a bit more. That didn't really give us anything new. We'll go to the lighthouse then. See what we can dig up there. A path consisting of jagged rocks leads to the lighthouse in the harbor. The lighthouse is on the end of a narrow strip of land, and as you walk towards it, the surging waves risk drenching your clothes in icy salt water. It takes all your concentration and some balancing not to wipe out on the slippery rocks. In your mind's eyes, new bills are already fluttering in your mailbox. One for the shoe repair shop and one for the physiotherapist. An overturned wooden sign lies on the ground between a few rocks. You read the label. Warning! Absolutely no trespassing. Innsmouth hasn't been precisely inviting since you arrived, so you already know the tune. You approach the lighthouse looking for shelter, but with every step you take, the place becomes more and more unwelcoming. The gray clouds transform into a mighty storm. Lightning strikes the top of the tower and sparks fly. Despite the storm, the lighthouse keeper hasn't put on the signal, so there is no beam of light to guard boats out there safely to the harbor of Innsmouth. Soon, you're completely drenched, but you make it at last. You're standing at the door leading to the inside of the lighthouse. Some joker has scratched something into the flaking white layer of paint onto the surface of the door. Do not come any closer. They want your body. I feel like I should take this seriously. This sounds suspiciously like a UFO sect, a sex cult, or danger. We explored the sex cult option before. Let's go the UFO sect. A UFO sect? Damn nerds. What were they scared of? Yesterday it was chemtrails. Today it's, well, what actually? Man-eating plants? Surely there's some kind of cuckoo club sitting up there in the warmth playing around a pen and paper. Embarrassingly, what passes as humans these days. You decide to rough them up a little. We're going in! You consider the dangers that this dilapidated old building may hold. A fragile building about to collapse. UFO nutters with aluminum hats? Sex-hungry, mindless and naked cultists? House dust. Oh no, my allergies. Not to mention the missing girl that you need to find. Still, how often do you come to a place like this? Almost automatically, your hand comes to the rest on the black iron door handle and pushes it down slowly and carefully. The door opens a crack, giving you a small glimpse into the neglected interior of the lighthouse. Darkness. Enter or return to the harbor. Well, we came this far. Let's keep going. Unsure of what to do next, you peek into the darkness. It's a dark, tall building. A very, very tall and thin building, admittedly. It is highly unlikely that the lighthouse will collapse today of all days. At least, this is what you keep repeating in your mind, like a mantra. You step inside. It's dry but cold. The icy stale air cools your shivering limbs even further. A spiral staircase leads up to the higher levels and to the top of the lighthouse. On the higher floors you can see round windows in the side of the wall, through which thunder and lightning throw brief flickers of light. Even the lowest corridor catches some of this light, so that you find yourself not completely in the dark. There are also some lamps that wind up along the banister. The black and white tiles on the floor have probably not been cleaned since the dawn of time. Storage boxes are cluttered amongst the place, and take up a third of the area of the ground level. To your astonishment, the walls of the lighthouse consist of a solid stone foundation. The metallic red and white painting exterior cladding must have been installed sometime later as a modernization measure. You think that a sex cult in here is now a bit unlikely, but you do not want to give up hope just yet. What now? Flip the lighthouse switch, inspect the boxes, walk up the stairs. Let's flip the lighthouse switch, turn it on. Trying won't hurt, unless, of course, you blow a fuse. You flip the light switch and wait in the twilight for something to happen. You know from old lamps in the cellar that sometimes they need a little time. You flip the switch again, and again. You come to the conclusion that you'll have to make do with the pale daylight. As you look more closely, you realize that there's an inscription just above the light switch. Well, let's read it. You manage to make out. Activate to close the electrical circuit. Electricity powers many machines, especially those giving off light and warmth. Indeed, that is how light switches work. Okay. Well observed, strange person who wrote that on the wall. Inspect the boxes. Considering that the lighthouse is easy to reach from the port, it strikes you as odd that there are all these supplies here. The boxes seem to hold food supplies, which make up the bulk of goods, and loads of spare electrical parts. You inspect one of the open crates that, according to its label, has been delivered by a company from Salem. Spare lamps, tools, wiring, in theory, even a dusty system such as this one, can be brought back to life with all these parts. The food is not quite to your taste, but efficient. Tin tuna, sauerkraut, and all kinds of canned fruit still fill over half of one of the open crates. 4 of the boxes are empty. 12 others are still untouched. Whoever lived here must have avoided contact with the locals like the devil avoiding holy water. Finally, some sensible people. Alright, this is our people. Let's climb up the stairs, see what they know. The banister has suffered the most age damage. The ravages of time have not only worn away the paint on the metal, but also the iron struts and pillars themselves. The scaffold seems to move precariously as you walk up, just as if the construction is about to collapse. When you're halfway up the stairs, you can hear a loud, metallic creaking sound. The stairway suddenly jerks down a little, and your insides feel like they continue dropping to the ground. Fine dust flutters down onto your head. You try to guess the depth of the fall. If the structure were to collapse now, you would break quite a few bones. Or worse. The chances of you getting caught up in a sex cult decrease with every step you take. Keep walking or turn around. Let's keep going. Let's meet our sexy cult. Just because the core of the spiral staircase is a bit loose, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to collapse, right? And perhaps it's just the residual alcohol in your bloodstream that's caused everything to spin? You carefully continue your way to one of the higher floors. About 30 feet above, the entrance hall is the first mezzanine floor. A metal plate in the core of the spiral staircase would also provide some stability if the whole thing wasn't so damn rusty. You can see a plain bed, a desk with a telephone, a chest of drawers, and a wardrobe with an embedded mirror. A Persian carpet is laid out over the ribbed metal floor, a pathetic attempt to make this room a little more homely. At least there's a window on this level. Rain pelts against the glass. The weather outside seems to get worse and worse. You hesitate. Inspect the room more closely or keep walking up? Let's inspect the room more closely. There's not much to explore here. Some neatly folded sheets and bedding have been placed on the bed. Awaiting a new inhabitant, perhaps? You turn on the desk. On it are a few envelopes and an atlas. You inspect the envelopes, the bed, the atlas, the telephone. Let's look at the telephone. It's an old telephone with a dial plate. Just for fun, you pick up the receiver and get a dial tone. Next to the phone is another note. Communication apparatus. Connects acoustically to other similarly constructed equipment after the identification number is entered. Identification numbers can be obtained in person or from the central register provided. Under the phone are 2 old books dating back to the 70s. The first one's the Consumer Electronics Manual. A short leaf-through shows you manuals and construction plans for TVs, cameras, telephones, radios, cars, and the like. The other is a Boston phone book. There's a bookmark peeking out to the side of it. When you open the book on the page, the phone number of a carpet cleaning company is marked. You can make neither head nor tail of the matter. Call the phone number, don't touch the telephone. Let's give it a jingle. On a whim, you decide to call the number. Maybe someone on the other end has an explanation for all this. You know that it's very likely that the shop is bankrupt and the connection has been switched off. After all, the number is from the early 70s. Isn't everything in this town from then? To your surprise, there's a signal and it seems to ring at the other end. After 4 or 5 rings, someone actually picks up the phone, but instead of a voice, you hear a series of giant clicking noises, as if a giant cricket or an angry lobster were at the other end. Click, click. Hello? Hello? Anybody there? The clicking sound on the other end ceases, and a voice comes through the receiver. Cole's Carpet Cleaner, James speaking. How can I help you? It really is a carpet cleaner. Who would have thought? I'm calling from a lighthouse. Let's do it. Let's see what he says. Maybe he knows why I'm calling from a lighthouse. I'm calling from a lighthouse. A lighthouse? Really? Have you ever looked at the sea from above? There's something quite surreal about the answer. No. You should definitely do that. The view is breathtaking. Would go so far as to say it could change your whole life. But if you're in Innsmouth, there's nothing I can do for you. We only clean carpets in Boston. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Hung up. We might have just tipped them off. Let's look at one more thing and then go. Let's look at the atlas. Maybe there's something interesting there. The atlas from 1984 is still in amazingly good condition. You think that it's been sitting here on the desk for decades, waiting just for you. You look to the table of the contents and then flip to the atlas. Some pages are marked. Areas in Antarctica and Australia are marked with strange curls. In addition, pages from the United States, the state of Massachusetts, and the surroundings of Innsmouth are marked. A yellow road map of Innsmouth has been stuck into these pages like a bookmark. The lighthouse is marked. On the last page you will find an entry. Landmass distribution and political territories, valid for, followed by a series of the same curls. You put the book how you found it. Interesting. I don't know what any of that means. Let's keep going up the stairs. You think you have seen enough and continue to follow the banister up the stairs. Meanwhile, thunder and lightning outside have become so furious, just as if the center of the storm is the lighthouse itself. Stoically, you continue your way up the stairs. The banister continues to wobble and squeak suspiciously, but it withstands the strain. The radius of the spiral staircase gradually becomes smaller. You estimate that you are now halfway up the building. You walk past another platform floor. This level is obviously used for nothing else but storing boxes. At least 30 or 40 stacked boxes, full to the brim with books. Seeing all those books causes a warm, fuzzy feeling in this pit of your stomach. You to be sick. No, I like books. I like libraries and bookstores. I love being around books. We're reading a book, kind of. How adorable! The previous lighthouse keeper must have been a bibliophile. You hope that you get to meet them, even though the place looks pretty deserted. You hesitate. Inspect the books, keep walking. Let's take a look. You take a moment to examine the boxes and their contents more closely. Quickly, you realize that these are almost exclusively non-fiction books. Oh, that's kind of boring. You discover lexicons, grammar for English and Spanish, non-fiction books on biology, chemistry, physics, and geography. There is also a Bible, a guide to etiquette, and a worn handbook for tourists on the East Coast. Out of interest, you flip through some of the books. The newest one seems to be from the 1980s, but some go as far back as the 20s. Many are decorated with strange curls around the edges. In the last box, you find a few books that differ greatly from the scientific character of the rest. These are books about occultism and obscure religions, titles like The Mysteries of the Worm, Unspeakable Cults, and Liber Ivorus. And there's also a book by a popular UFO nutcase, and suddenly everything makes sense. Maybe the lighthouse keeper was a little soft in the head, probably the loneliness. You keep walking up the stairs, past another mezzanine, and then you're on the upper level of the lighthouse. It's getting more and more unlikely that you'll find anything related to your case here. But we're going to keep going. Oh well. Up to the last level or examine the mezzanine. Let's take a quick look. You find a strange collection of objects on this level. Sports equipment, musical instruments, and toys. The objects seem to have no connection to each other. In one corner, you can see an old tube television set with a Betamax device connected to it. Maybe it's worth looking through all this. Perhaps you'll find something valuable or interesting. You inspect the exercise machine, the toys, the musical instruments, the TV. All right, let's look at two. Let's look at the toys. It's a bunch of colorful objects arranged on the table. You find a Rubik's Cube, a plastic hoop, some juggling balls, and a bunch of Mikado sticks. There's also a few of those annoying skill-based games where you have two metal hooks tangled together and you have to get them apart somehow, but you can't make it work and get frustrated and just want to have tequila shots and be left alone with that kind of nonsense. Emma, that's not why you come to the pub. You know the kind. You know. The kind that play those games in the pub. I don't know. Besides toys, you also find a pen and piece of blank paper, a key and a padlock, some tins, a can opener, a plate of cutlery, a plate of cutlery, and other everyday items. I cannot say the word cutlery. On the wall behind the table hangs a large poster on which someone has drawn two hands. It's labeled, "Hands, know your tools." Underneath are some hand gestures that can be used to create shadow play. You fiddle for a bit and expand your repertoire. Now you can do the crane, the elephant, and the crossroads. Great, so useful. We're going to do them at the top of the lighthouse and the lighthouse light. Alright, we also inspect the musical instruments. You see a piano and a guitar. You shudder just to think about the poor soul who had to drag the piano up to this floor. On top of the piano are some sheets of music. Strangely enough, they are not musical scores, but a collection of curls and drawings of finger positions. It seems as if the piano was intended less as a musical instrument and more as a training ground for finger acrobatics. You don't know what to make of all this. Neither do I. What kind of acrobatics of the finger do you do on piano? Alright, I don't want to keep clicking. This video has gone on pretty long, so let's go up to the last level and see what's there. The last steps are always the hardest. Or was it the first ones? No matter which steps, your heart is now beating so strongly that you can feel it pressing against your chest. Once you're back home, you should really consider a healthier lifestyle. Yeah, with the exercise equipment that we didn't look at. At last, you have reached the top floor of the lighthouse. Dulled glass windows separate you from the thunderstorm outside. Rain pours down on the panes and lightning occasionally illuminates the sky and reveals the billowing sea. If you were an artist, this would be the ideal place to paint tasteless painting with ships on the churning waters. In the center of the floor, there is a metal column that must be there to support the lighthouse uppermost platform. You assume that all this serves to be stabilized and balanced the construction. Apart from that, the floor is completely unfurnished. Sheets of paper with strange doodles are fixed to some of the window panes. Pencil portraits of people, trees, houses, dogs. Around each drawing, someone seems to have made notes, but you can't make out the language. You wonder if it was a destitute artist who lived here towards the end, or some sort of Russian sleeper agent? Another ramp leads to the top of the lighthouse, where the actual lighthouse apparatus must be installed. You walk up the steep stairs. You've done it. You made it to the top of the lighthouse. Not in a million years did you think that this job would take you to such an exciting place in a boring coastal town. There is still a nasty thunderstorm out there, and the lightning keeps illuminating the glass cage in erratic intervals. Spellbound, you look at the roaring waves. They're beautiful. The powerful and steady movement of the waves, the foamy salt water splashes up oh so incredibly high. You're so enticed by the majestic beauty that you almost wish you were outside now, to feel the fresh sea breeze on your skin. But wait, why did you come here again? You try to tear yourself away from the endless spectacle of the sea and turn your attention to the center of the small glass dome. It is then that you make a curious observation. The lighthouse has no light at all. Ah, our finger puppets! There is no light construction that could rotate in the direction of the harbor or the sea, not even a flashlight on a microphone stand. Where you would expect some sort of electrical machine, there is only a black column of about 3 feet high, whose curved forms merge at the top into a kind of marble plate. An altar, a voice in the back of your head informs you. There's a cube on the altar. Do we look at the cube more closely or leave this place immediately? Let's look at it more closely. Intrigued, you walk closer. The materials of the cube must be bronze. It glistens dully in front of the black marble column. The object looks as if it belongs just there. It's perfect right where it is. Everything looks as if it's been made from one piece. What you first thought was some arbitrary decorations turned out to be hieroglyphics, cranes, simple tools, knowing eyes. Curiously, you walk to the column on which the cube rests. What are Egyptian hieroglyphics doing in a lighthouse on the east coast of the United States? Your fingers are itching. You take the cube into your possession, get out of this place. That's the second time I brought up getting out of this place. I think we are going to die when I take the cube into my possession. just for a brief second, you simply have to hold the bronze cube in your hands, feel the texture of its surface on your fingertips, inspect the hieroglyphics more closely, measure its exact weight, smell it, lick it. You have to know everything, absolutely everything about it. You extend your hand and touch the cube. And now you can't let go of it again. It seems to have melted into your skin, or somehow attached itself to you. Yes, it has sucked itself onto you, and it continues to suck. Your consciousness and your soul, everything is now trapped in a never-ending slipsleeve coming from the sucking cube. You feel like you're caught in a mighty vortex that pulls you down, deeper and even deeper. All of a sudden, you have a strange, out-of-body experience and start to see yourself from the perspective of the cube. You feel something unbelievably strange beside you. Some sort of being has emerged from the depths of the vortex and is passing you by to float in the opposite direction. Your soul is swallowed by the cube and something strange occupies your body, loosens the last anchor and pushes you over the edge. You cling desperately to your mortal shell, and then your consciousness starts to crumble. For a brief moment, you think that from the perspective of the cube, you're looking at eyes that no longer belong to you. Then, everything goes black. Well, we died. Right? Oh, no. The story goes on. And we will have to find out what happened next time. So thank you everyone for clicking into the channel. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.